What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dynasty Underdog. We are really ramping up here. We got week 3 of the preseason upon us. Get to see if some of those fringe guys are going to make the rosters. Be really cool. But first we're going to talk about some of the week 2 um, happenings in our news and nonsense section and go from there. But we do not have your eye tonight, unfortunately. We'll have him back next week, but Jake is here for his last episode for about a month, which is ridiculous. Maybe a little
No,
bit less than that. What, 2 weeks?
just a week. Just a week.
Is a
Yeah.
week? Oh, I
Yeah.
thought, or maybe you're going to be off another stretch at some point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'll be gone for a while, mid-September, but yeah, I'll be
Okay.
gone
I'm
just for this
dreading
week.
that, and obviously I'm already thinking about that. That's the problem. Um,
Rightfully
but
so.
that said, how you doing, man?
Good, dude. I don't want to give away our secret sauce, but we are co-managing a redraft league together, and it's going to be really exciting. We just did our first mock for the draft tomorrow, and honestly, I feel like we're in a really good spot. It's like a
Dialed
really
in.
nice collective of the minds, a melding of the minds, if you would. Yeah, no, I'm just in that spot where I've been trying to like get deals done in Dynasty, but my brain is like working in redraft mode, and I'm having the most difficult time understanding if I'm off base, are they off base? Like, what the fuck is going on? And yeah, I think we have a really good episode today to kind of dive into what we've tried to do in the past, how we've kind of learned from it, and then we're also looking at kind of in the current what we're doing now that we might be looking forward to in 12 months, having the same episode being like, damn, maybe that wasn't the right take. So yeah, I'm excited.
No, yeah, that's awesome for sure. You say, you're trying to get some deals done and everything. Like I think I'm just kind of sitting back at this time. I think the reason is because there is a lot of uncertainty, and I feel like there's definitely a lot of potential to make a mistake. Now, if you're trying to, look back to our last episode and apply the ricochet effect and do something quickly, you can definitely get that done and not really worry about those long-term effects, like I am always worrying about. So, I think there's obviously a way to play it right now and do that. But I do think that, you can also make a lot of mistakes if you're not careful and ready to do that. So for me, I've been just kind of trying to wait. I have set my teams up, I think. In early, I was, I was making a lot more moves, I think probably a month or so ago.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've set myself up good. And kind of pacing it. But it's interesting because like we're all playing we're navigating it differently at the same time, doing different things. It's funny. It's interesting the way we all do it. We have to navigate around each other. But that said, I will stop ranting. Let's get into the news and nonsense and talk a little bit about the preseason week 2 thoughts that we do have. There's a lot to talk about. This was probably the last week that we're going to have a look at the starters before week 1 regular season. So definitely a lot to talk about. Let's get right into it with, I think, the most hyped up player probably of the preseason, and that's going to be Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. I did not know that he wanted to be called Bill. I did catch the backstory of, I guess, friends and coaches and whatnot calling him Little Bill, or maybe it was Bill, but Little Bill because of the way he looked. I guess he looked like Little Bill, the character from the book, and it stuck, and he likes it. So just anybody who didn't know it, that's what that's about. But yeah, let's get our thoughts on Bill, JCM. Obviously, a lot of news around Brian Robinson potentially being traded. So, and it seems like that's more likely every day, every hour. He didn't play in the preseason game, and JCM showed out. So, I still think, I'll just real quick thought on just kind of his athleticism or his play style. Like he's definitely got good burst, and I think he definitely reads the the line well. Obviously, there's been some pretty big holes for him though. That said, I feel like he kind of like has a ceiling on his speed in a way where it's like you see him cap out, and it's almost like opposite of Roadrunner, where it's like it just starts, his legs really start to slow down and you see it. And so I think there's a limit on his upside is kind of what I'm getting at more so than anything. This is a 7th round pick. So as excited as we are, I would probably be more interested in seeing if I could move him right now for a 2nd round pick. Now he starts playing in week 1, week 2, Brian Robinson gets traded. That goes up to 2 2nd round picks. So there's a balance. There's a fine line there. I mean, where are you at, Jake, with that?
No, I was looking at Dynasty Daddy's trade database today, just because I wanted to kind of understand some of the values around the players that we were going to discuss around the preseason thoughts. And yeah, he's going for a second. Like, you can now blatantly state that Bill is going for a second. I just refreshed the page. He just went for 2 seconds. Like, no joke, just went for 2 seconds. I do think that you're in this crazy window where if you do have an opportunity to get out for that type of value, I'm not scared of like what the ceiling value looks like. I did something similar with Bucky last year.
I
I had like
remember.
4 or 5
Yeah.
shares. I traded him away for 2 seconds. I then traded him away a week later for him and Carson Steele for a first. And, like, I didn't feel bad about any of those trades. And like, I think a lot of
Carson
people with
Steele doing the heavy lifting in that trade, bro.
I think at the time he was the starting running back too for KC for I think one more week. But the reason I bring this up is I do think that it is okay to just liquidate a profit and understand that, yeah, you might be getting out at some point in time, but that is just how I want to be kind of going. I have drafted JCM at like the 410 in every single draft that I've gotten him at. There have been a few where I've been able to pick him up as an undrafted free agent on waivers. It's like, if I can get out at 2 seconds, I'm going to do that on the majority of my rostership, especially because the majority of my rostership is probably sitting on a rebuild or some type of like non-contending team. And I just don't see, even at ceiling circumstances, JCM ever getting into my starting lineup. So I could be really wrong there, and that's fine. That's not really the game that I want to play. It's just more so of how I want to just work through an asset and see what their values look like.
Yeah, the price of the brick's gone up. Iston an hour ago is not the price now. Crazy. Lapisaurus here, I think, has a good comment and question with the hype around JCM. Is there an opportunity to invest in B Rob? Is it risky to assume if he gets traded, it's to be an RB1 somewhere? Yeah, it's risky, but I don't think it's. I think there's some validity to it, right? There's definitely some options for him out there. Getting traded to Dallas would certainly improve his value. So, something like that happening would definitely be a good thing for Brian Robinson. So I agree that I haven't tested the cost out. I haven't looked at the cost, but if it's, I don't know, would you spend a third round pick on Brian Robinson?
Yeah, I think that is probably what I would be looking at. Maybe 2/3 maxed out.
I don't think
Right
you even
now,
need to do that. I don't even think you need
yeah.
to.
No, you're probably right. Right now, he's going for the 301. He went for a second, Khalil Shakir, a second, Michael Pittman. So he's still around kind of that second round value. And those were all trades that happened today. My current settings are at super flex, half, 0.75, and 1 point tight end premium. And those are 12 and 14 team leagues with 9, 10, or 11 starters. So, like, he's still
It's
pretty
crazy.
expensive. I don't think I'd be happy doing any of those, truth be told, except for probably the 301. And that would probably be the only one. And even then, you could probably get some pretty decent value at the 301, depending on what's going on in your rookie drafts. So I don't know. I'm on the fence. I think we just have to wait until things kind of get defined in the next week or so. I think his value will probably continue to drop.
Yeah, I'm good at third round value or less. So if you want to do that, then I think we can get into some Brian Robinson. All right, let's keep it moving. Burden on Burden, Luther Burden. We didn't see him, with the ones in the week 2 preseason game. We saw Olamide Zacchaeus,
Yes.
who, listen, I mean, career Jag, but did have a really good season, or his best season last year, and a really good end to his year last year. I will say he was actually on a winning team for me, a championship team for me, which is kind of sad, but also pretty cool. So he's not a bad player, but I think this is just slow rolling Luther Burden. I mean, all the news out of camp has been pretty positive as of late. So I don't know. How do you read this situation? Like, do you just think that this is going to be early in the season, or cause for concern?
No, yeah, I have zero cause for concern. This does feel like one of those situations where, they want to slow roll his adaptation to the NFL. He didn't get to practice a lot due to a soft tissue issue that he was working with. I didn't intentionally rhyme there. And really trying to kind of have him fit into the team as best as possible on his own terms. And the funny thing is that, yeah, he played with the twos, but he balled out. Like, his individual route running, I think, was exactly what you expected from Luther Burden. I think his top end speed is getting there from that soft tissue issue. I also did again. And then most importantly, though, his run blocking was great. You know, he made 2 massive blocks on what ended up being 2 touchdowns. And that's really what I think Ben Johnson wants to see more than anything else. Like, is this guy viable to be playing with the starters? And I think he's already showing that. So maybe it's a 3 or 4 week, you know, circle jerk between who's playing the most amount of snaps between him and Olamide. But like, I think that you're probably talking about that at most. It might even be 2 to 3 weeks. It's probably really limited, and Burden just takes on that role.
Honestly, I would assume that they're going to split a lot of time. Like, I don't think Olamide
Definitely.
Zaccheaus is going to be running, full time with the ones, as we would say, or whatever, when the season begins. So, yeah, I don't have any concerns. I think they're going to work him in. By all accounts, he could be, the second or first best wide receiver on that team by the end of the year. So we'll see what happens there. He is a specimen, I will say, much bigger than I remember him being on tape coming out of college.
Burden?
Just a really
Yeah.
big. I mean, obviously he's not like 6'4", 6'5" or anything like that, but he's over 6 foot.
He's got good
Upper,
frame too.
yeah, that's what I mean. Upper
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
probably 90s or so, and he is just fast as shit. So I mean, like, if he can get it together between the ears, he's gonna be solid, I think. So yeah, I'm interested in Burden. Let's keep it moving here. We got Damian Martinez versus George Holani, the Seahawks backups. This is basically the fight for the running back 3 spot on the team. I do listen. Like, I think Holani has a leg up on Martinez. Like, if I'm not wrong, he's been there for a year, right? Holani, he was there last year as well.
Correct. He was undrafted free agent last year.
Right. And he was actually, go back and watch his tape out of college. He's pretty good back. Not surprised to see him doing what he's doing. I like Damian Martinez too, but everything I've seen so far, they've both looked solid, but Holani seems to be more consistent, in my opinion. So I kind of think he has the leg up right now. And I do think I do think
No, go ahead.
having these guys on your roster they're valuable. I mean, Ken Walker could easily go down, and then once that happens, you have Charbs and one of these guys as the backup, or probably both of them getting some kind of role. So, yeah, thoughts, Jake?
Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. And like, Holani, while Janty was there, still took about 345, 350 carries away from Janty in Janty's freshman and sophomore years. And he ended up rushing for close to 2,000 yards over those carries. Like, he's definitely not a complete running back. There's a reason why he was an undrafted free agent. But at the end of the day, you're talking about a guy who's actually running with a ton of confidence. What I will say is that Damian Martinez looked better in week 2. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it up. It looked like he finally felt that the necessity to kind of take it up to the next level. He looked truly like a jag in week 1. There just wasn't a lot of hole finding. His general pass pro has been relatively weak, and people have commented on it at college, and it looked even worse when he was playing in week 1. He looked significantly more confident and competent. So what I will say is that week 3 is probably going to be the decider. But at the end of the day, there isn't a lot of investment in Damian Martinez, right? He was a day 3, round 7, I think 223 or 224 overall pick. Like, George Holani and him are basically equivalent to this organization. Both of the picks were drafted by the same GM and by the same head coach. So it's like there's no one's getting the upper hand here. What I will say is this is one of those where I think week 3 will be the deciding factor of who ends up getting onto the roster, who ends up sitting on. Yeah, they are. They're gonna play a ton. You're gonna probably see both get close to 20 touches, and it'll be a really, really fun battle because I do think that both guys actually have a lot of upside, especially in this offense. Because if you see this offense is going to run the ball, like, it's just going to happen. So Clint Kubiak is a dude who wants to run the ball. He did a decent job with it in New Orleans. He's going to continue to do it in Seattle. It's something that you just need to be mindful of. And I don't know. This is one of those running back battles that I don't have a single side on, but I don't think anyone really is owning George Holani. And I really just wanted to shout him out because I do think that there is a viable option here with, like you said, an early Ken Walker injury. You potentially have a running back here who might be getting 8 to 10 carries in a game. If there's a Charbonnet injury, you now have a starting running back potentially, right? Like it's as quick as that. This game moves way too fast with
And
injuries.
it's
So
not
just
far
something to be
fetched,
mindful of.
as it sounds crazy now, but it's not that far fetched. We've seen stuff like that happen.
Yep.
So a couple things on this. I did say at the beginning of the show, week 3 is fun because you get to see some of those fringe guys make the roster. And with this deep of dynasty as we play, like those are the guys that you're end up like last couple spots on your roster, you may throw him in there, right? And I have had Holani on my team before for sure. He's definitely cycled his way through the bench. One thing to note also, Martinez did have a touchdown in that game, 11 for 50, but Holani had basically the same amount of yards on half the carries in the same game. So he's been a little bit more efficient. And so I like Damian Martinez, that. I hope that he picks it up, and I do think I think these guys are definitely worth keeping an eye on and rostering, most likely in your dynasty league. So okay, keep it moving.
Can I just add one more thing? Sorry.
Yeah.
I did want to say I really did like Damian Martinez's 2 reception reps that he had. They weren't like amazing, but they just looked improved. And I know you and we were really high on Damian Martinez. We loved his tape. We complained about his receiving game. There just wasn't a lot of tape there to look at, specifically in his last year at UM. And it was one of those things that we just called out as a potential concern. I will say that I really liked the receiving reps, and something that for me helps someone trend a little bit in a more positive direction when you start to see, what quote unquote weaknesses kind of flourish in a game like that. So that's the last thing I wanted to add. Thanks.
No, good stuff. Fair. All right. I like this next one. Helm, it catch in concentration. Gunnar Helm. Yeah, I like that. That's a fun one. Gunnar Helm definitely looked like a football player. He looked like he
he wore a uniform and a helmet.
He's ran a route before. So he caught this ball with somebody's hand right in his face, right? So obviously good concentration there, good ball skills. I think, we both liked Gunnar Helm coming out. We know that he's kind of a plotter. He's not going to, ever be Travis Kelce, but he definitely can be a serviceable player. And this was a guy you were getting in the 4th round, probably on waivers in a lot of leagues. So yeah, I mean, you're probably higher on Cam Ward than I am in that offense, but
yeah,
it's Calvin Ridley and what else? Tyler Lockett and Gunnar Helm.
Manor,
and Gunnar
Helm. It's like
Tony Pollard. Yeah, like they're gonna catch balls. So it's like I think Gunnar Helm definitely has a
Van Jefferson.
Please stop.
That drop. Did you see that drop that he?
Yeah, I think you sent it to me.
Did I send it to you?
Yeah, I think you were like, "How is this guy still in the league?"
It's crazy. It's insane. Him and Brandon Allen. I think I shat on 2
Brandon.
Tennessee.
Oh
yeah. Brandon Allen, the quarterback.
Yeah.
I shat on 2 Tennessee Titans in like a span of 24 hours with you. Sorry about that. You didn't deserve that.
But I think that Gunnar Helm, it could be a very viable, fill-in option, or at the very least, let's forget about that, a guy who could gain dynasty value, right? So from here on out, he's very low valued. I think he could increase his value, and that's what I like about him. So any thoughts on Gunnar Helm before we move?
Yeah, nothing to really add from the prospect profile. Shout out to us if you want to go back and listen in on what we're talking about. I think we covered Gunnar when we were talking through like 6 or 7 different tight ends. So it was a little bit of an episode to listen to, but it could be really helpful for anyone who's trying to go back into that process. But yeah, this is definitely one of those guys where you can still pick up really cheap, potentially on waivers, depending on what kind of league you're in, and probably flipping in some window at some point this season for pretty decent value. I think one of the things that we should be mindful of, though, is just like what is going to happen at tight end in that room. And, there is Chigakonkwo who LOL. Yes, there is Chigakonkwo who I think we just need to be conscientious of. I think he realistically is the tight end 1 by like a pretty decent means. Like I think the gap is relatively large still. I do think that there will be a lot of 2 tight end sets on this team. I think they came into this offseason wanting to run the ball. It's a shame of what happened to Tyjae Spears with his high ankle sprain, but like the reality is we're even seeing a ton of, like Khalil Mullings, fucking Jamar Jefferson, Julius Chestnut, all your favorite terrible Tennessee Titans running backs are all still there. They haven't gone anywhere. So Tony Pollard and the group, we'll call it Tony Pollard and the Beatles, they will all be performing probably close to 35 to 40 touches, and Gunnar Helm will be on the field. I think that is kind of the big thing for me, is like I definitely see him and Josh Weil, I think is his name,
Yeah.
really fighting for what that tight end 2 spot looks like. And we even saw there were windows last year where Josh Weil looked competent. So I wouldn't be surprised if Gunnar Helm quickly usurps him and turns into something that people will think in higher tight end premium leagues as potentially tight end viable. I don't foresee that really being his long-term value, but that's when you can kind of get off for maybe like a late second or 2/3 or something like that and feel pretty good because you picked him up for nothing.
Yeah. And shout out Jay for, the YouTube comment here. Zero Chig mentioned shame. Definitely shame. I never been a Chig guy. Definitely less of
Shig
a
to the
definitely been less of a I mean, he's less of a conventional tight end, and I could, like Jake saying, I could definitely see both of them on the field, and Gunner playing a lot of snaps because I think he's a good blocker as well. That's, if anybody does want to see the prospect profile I wrote up, hop in the Discord, you can get it there. But yeah, I think that he could push even Chig. Like Chig is definitely got obviously the role, and he's a much, I think, more athletic receiver, and probably a better receiving threat in general. But I don't know. I've never been super impressed by Chig, so I think he could be pushed, and I think that there's room for others to carve out some roles here. So all right, let's keep moving.
Let's keep it moving.
So Ollie Gordon hype grows, yes, and I mean we are going to talk about Jalen Wright in a little bit in our next segment, but yeah, he's obviously outperforming Jalen Wright, which is his main competition there. If anything were to happen to Devon Achane, that backup role is hugely, hugely valuable. We've seen that before with Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson even. So yeah, I was never an Ollie Gordon fan, but I mean, even if you're not in a scheme like this, we've seen plenty of running backs perform. So you got to get interested at this point. What are you thinking, Jake?
Yeah, I called this out in the prospect profiling. Like, I really liked Ollie Gordon's 2023 tape and
Yeah, I
did
remember you
not like
saying
his
that.
2024 tape.
Mm-hmm.
He looks more 2023 to me. I know it sounds really stupid. Like, there's like two versions of him, and he declined a little bit in his last year in college. But I really do think that was the case. There were a lot of rumors about him playing through injury. He just looks healthy. He looks sharp, and I do think that running back 2 spot in the team is very much his for the taking right now, without us diving into the next portion of our conversation. But everything that I'm seeing is honestly solidifying what some of my thoughts were about 2023. I just didn't know how that would translate to the NFL because of what I saw in 2024 and why he ended up actually falling towards the bottom of my pack of running backs. I didn't want to weight 2023 more heavily and, run away from some of those thoughts, but it was difficult. It's one of the most challenging parts of the prospect profiling process. We talk about this all the time, but like, I don't try and get too caught up with what's happened in the past, but he is one of those prospects where I'm like, maybe I'll put in a little bit more like detail into some of the work that I'm doing about past seasons that I've liked.
Yeah, I think it's a fair shout, especially like I don't know if it's necessary for every player, but especially the ones who have suffered an injury or some other thing that may impact the following season, or following a good season, right? So like if they had a good season, then they have a poor season, and it's like, why did that happen? It may be worth going back in that tape and giving it more credence than I typically like to, because truthfully, I like to focus on the current season because that's who the player is. But I mean, George Pickens is a good one. I think a good example of this too for me, where I mean, again, he's not like, the most well-rounded player, anything, really good player. And clearly his last season at Georgia was impacted by the injury the year prior. So I think it's something that, for my profiling process, I need to make sure that I add in for any of those guys, go back and look at that previous season and say, okay, what's possible here? Because, sports medicine, everything, these guys do get back to health after a full year of recovery. It's very important. So really, 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 really good shout there, Jake, and good job on that process. I like it. Okay, keep it going. We've had the mumps. Okay. Kanata Mumfield, LA Rams wide receiver. Let's talk about that. Hezzy. Definitely saw it. We're talking about the one in the red zone, right? Hezzy on the
Yeah, his
corner
touchdown reception.
to
Yeah.
the slant, right? It was a slant. Yeah.
Hmm.
He looked, I mean, yeah, it was great. And I think you and I talked about this. Yeah. He had the head peak to the outside. And I think that's what really sold that route. Definitely a nuanced route. I mean, there was multiple different facets of what he was doing there, from the release to the upper body movement, the head peak, and then shooting inside with really good suddenness at the top of the route. Yeah, there's a lot to like, man. There's a lot to like, and the only thing, excuse me, the only thing in his way really is a lot of talent in front of him. So, I mean, a worthwhile investment, I would say. And if you got in early, like Jake did, like we did, we're just really talking about this guy a lot this offseason. You should be happy about it. I think he's performing really well. Any extra thoughts there?
No, I think he's outperforming my expectations of how he's already impacted and kind of made his own appearance into the team. You really aren't seeing as much of Jordan Whittington. I think that's due to injury, but Mumfield's taking advantage of that opportunity. You're even seeing guys like Mario Williams taking opportunity where it came. Unfortunately, he just got injury designated waived, so he's realistically done. But this is one of those circumstances where the depth chart, I think it feels crowded to people because of guys like Tutu Atwell, guys like Devontae Adams. But Tutu Atwell is only there for a year. It's a $10 million deal that probably won't even feel like a good investment afterward, but they just wanted the comfortability for Matt Stafford. And then, Devontae Adams is realistically not going to be there long term. There's a good chance it's going to be Stafford's last year. There is a world where someone like Kanata Mumfield can move into the wide receiver 2 spot moving forward. And that's kind of where I'm trying to gain from what we're seeing on tape now. Does he have that juice? Like, is that available? And I think that there's still enough being shown on a preseason week to week perspective that I'm still excited. So I'm really looking forward to how he continues to grow. I think that this is one of the best team situations he could have fallen into, and he's taking full advantage of it. We don't have him on the list, but like Keandre Lambert-Smith, someone else that I've been pretty high on in this process, like he's doing the same exact thing in the same city with the Chargers. And it's one of those circumstances where this is what you want. Like the dude was I think a 5th round draft pick, usurping Trey Harris, the higher rounded and higher draft capital wide receiver. And yeah, Trey is now kind of growing a little bit. We saw in week 2 of the preseason, we don't have him on the list either. But I think Kanata is exactly what we thought he was. He is just a high level execution player. You expect a lot of like headiness, both physically with the movement of his head, but also like his game intelligence to take advantage over lesser game intelligent players. Maybe he doesn't have the same physicality or athleticism that other players do in this position, but he has a lot of ability to get himself to that next level. And it's funny, like when you go back in time to like a Keenan Allen coming out as a prospect, there were a lot of people that were very high on him, but there were also a lot of haters because of his athleticism. This is a perfect example of why game intelligence is so important. I'm talking about like very, very, very high end ability here. Like I'm not saying that Kanata Mumfield is a Keenan Allen. I'm just saying that it takes the opportunity from these types of circumstances to then learn from these types of organizations and help what are lower draft capital players and propel them into really, really high end situations if they have that ability. And I think he does. So I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see a lot more of him in this week 3 preseason game, probably a lot more of Stetson Bennett, who also deserves a little shout here too.
Yeah.
If you're in those 25, 30, 30 roster spot leagues, definitely a guy who you may want to throw on the bench. Did show out in that last preseason game. Real quick, we have a question here. Dixie Flatline, is Tez Johnson worth a stash in deeper leagues? Probably, but like for me, I'm definitely 30 to 35. I think I'm thinking like 25. I could probably leave him on the waivers, and I'm talking 25 roster spots. So, but yeah, 30, 35. I think he's probably, I don't have a lot of him, but like I see the vision, I guess. Just, obviously the 40 time or just the combine in general, and his size is but the combination is not really intriguing to me. Plus the fact that it's Igbuka, and right now Godwin, Evans, and then McMillan, like
Right.
I mean,
I guess I guess the fair read of the room though is Godwin and McMillan probably realistically won't be back until midseason, right? And you now have a really depleted room. But I will say that Sterling Shepard will realistically be their slot receiver. Like
yeah.
that would be who Tez is going to be competing with the most. But Sterling Shepard is historically injured, so
And I was about to say he could be right there with Godwin and co. So
this does feel like a good opportunity, even in
it's a good
slightly less
stash.
deep leagues. I don't mind him honestly
Yeah,
being in like a taxi or
that's right. You could throw
sitting
him on
there.
taxi.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
I'm
that's
okay
kind of where
in
I would
20.
sit.
Yeah, in 25, I'd throw him on taxi. 30, 35, you can probably keep him on your bench. So I'm definitely okay with that. And he has shown some flashes, despite all the stuff we said. He definitely
Mm-hmm.
shows that he can play ball for sure, and he has good route running skills. I think so. Not the most refined, but he does have some decent route running skills. All right, so we can move forward here. Also, Jay does really like Mumps learning from Devonta Adams too, and I agree with that. It's not it can't hurt, and just watching Adams and kind of just trying to take pieces of his game is only going to help him. So agree there. Moving on here to New England, chiseling a role for Chisholm.
So
Efton
bad.
Chisholm. Efton Chisholm, honestly, Efton Chisholm sounds like a name of a good football player. I'm not surprised that like that is going to turn into a decent football player. What I will say is, I mean, I think objectively he's looked good. Like you don't really need to be a fan of the Patriots to watch his tape and be like, okay, this kid's got something. He one thing that he has, I think, comparing him to another similar player on the same team, like Demario Douglas, Pop Douglas, as many know him, he finds himself to be a little bit more open more often, and it seems like he's an easier target, and that may both be because his frame is a little bit larger than just Demario Douglas is super short, and his arms are also super short, and I think Efton Chisholm is closer to like a 6 foot. Like I don't think he's necessarily there, but he's closer to that than not, and so he's a little bit longer, a little bit bigger target, but also just has a knack for finding zones, finding holes in zones, and he also is showing something after the catch. So I really like what Efton Chisholm has done. I think you're having a hard time getting him on your roster at this point. Probably not on waivers anymore, especially if you're in a league with me. But what are your thoughts, Jake, on Chisholm?
Yeah, I think I wanted to doubt him, and so I did. I definitely have a few shares, but not probably enough. You're already starting to see him. We were talking about Bill's exceeded value, and just to show like how ridiculous some people are, like Efton Chisholm is getting traded for a second in leagues. Efton Chisholm is getting traded for a third plus in leagues.
I
And
think
it's
I'd
like
have to hold him for a second. I don't think I could sell him for. No, I'm kidding.
I was about to log off. like I don't
I
want to
think I'd
be.
need more than a third, to be honest with you, though. I don't think I'd sell him for a third. I'll be straight
That's
up. Like I
I
would need
think
a
that's
second.
reasonable. Yeah, like I said, it's a third plus. Like this one is Efton Chisholm for 26 third and Arian Smith from the Jets. It's not great, but I get it.
That's a third. Okay.
Yeah, it's probably accurate. But yeah, there's a little bit of that kind of all over the place. There's some really crazy ones too. There's an Efton Chisholm plus a second for Roma Dunze. Like,
Oh yeah, that's
what
money.
what are we doing here? Like, sometimes I go through the database and I'm like, are these real? Like, are these people just like in like clone leagues and they're just like messing around with their assets?
Are
Like
these
I don't
just
know.
AI trades?
I don't trust it sometimes, but yeah, I think there is a world where you can get out of Efton Chisholm not even being probably a starter in the depth chart week 1
Mm-hmm.
for a second now, and that probably feels pretty good. But yeah, I think all in all, he has really solidified a space where he is fighting for a role. To your point, I do think that he has been significantly more efficient in his routes that he has ran, albeit typically against the twos up this week.
Yeah, yeah.
Prior to that, it was against the threes. So like I do want to be a little hesitant to really take on like what that separation looks like and translates to Demario Douglas or Pop Douglas's reps. But that all being said, we do know that Josh McDaniels is it plural? Yeah, it's McDaniels. I always get confused between him and Mike.
Him and Mike
Mike is
McDaniel.
McDaniel.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
So Josh McDaniels, we know that he he is basically a slot slut. So the slot is going to definitely get overused and might get overworn. So, it's like one of those it's one of those situations where we just have to be really mindful about the opportunity here. I think the opportunity is really good for Chisholm. So yeah, on to the next.
I do just want to say about Chisholm, he is literally fighting for a roster spot. Like, he may have made the roster based on what he did in week 2, just to be clear. Like, so you're trading for a second, you're literally trading a guy who might not make the roster, for a second, which obviously is a very good move. So I definitely endorse that, but just trying to level set where it's at, despite how excited I think I am and others are about Chisholm, and should be, because he does look really good. And also, I don't know if he would be doing this anywhere else, because that, like Jake is talking about, Josh McDaniels is a slot slut. There's a place for this role in this offense like there is nowhere else. You know what I mean? And so, if there was anywhere where a guy like this could succeed, it would be here. And so I think that's why we're a little excited. Elliot Wolf comments and other team comments, he made the team, says Jay. I mean, I agree. Like, after watching that game, he definitely made the team. So, okay, let's keep moving. Good stuff on Chisholm. Oh, I just want to say, remember, I think I showed you Efton Chisholm. I was like, have you heard of this guy's name? It was like, what, like 2 or 3 months ago, like maybe 2 months ago, like right during the draft or right after the draft. I was like, I've never heard of this guy. And we started watching. It's crazy how fast that,
yeah. You did the same with Lan Larison really quickly too. Actually, it was before New England even drafted him.
I saw his tape.
Him, sorry,
because I saw his tape before that, and he's legit. I'm just saying, the only reason he's not is on anybody's radar right now is because he got injured and he's on IR.
Yeah, he's done for the year. But
I would still throw him on IR and keep him on my team until next year, because he was getting Rex Burkhead buzz, like similar shit to Efton Chisholm. I think it would have turned out not the same, but he would have definitely provided some ROI, I think so. Just something to think about. But okay, Jamari Thrash. Thrash is a rash option. Thrash is a rash. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. But I don't believe in Jamari Thrash too much. I also think there's just a lot going on with this wide receiver core. Like, they just signed Isaiah Bond. They have Deontay Johnson. Like, they're collecting just a lot of – these are just like poor – I don't know what to call them exactly, but it's they're collecting a lot of trouble is what it seems like over there. You know what I mean? And none of them seem like are options that I would really want to roster. I'm trying to think I think the only option there that I would be comfortable rostering is the
Judy?
One I can't think. No, Judy and the other guy. What's the other one?
Cedric Tillman.
Yes, those two. Those are the only two guys I think I'd be comfortable from the wide receiver core. Njoku and what's it called? But like, outside of that, just because I've seen flashes from Tillman, at least you've seen something, and he's doesn't have any like red flags, on or off the field really. So he's kind of the cleanest prospect I feel like in there. Not that Jamari Thrash does really either, but I just think he's also a better prospect than Thrash. So that's where my brain would go in that wide receiver core. I'm not really in on Thrash. What about you?
Yeah, I think the most interesting part about Jamari Thrash is that he did play slot in Louisville. He does look pretty competent. We're not seeing Deontay Johnson in the slot at all. And so that means that Deontay Johnson isn't competing for this role. Isaiah Bonds could very well be competing for this role, but I think it's going to take him months to get up to speed. That being said, to your point, there's a lot of target competition. So I think Jamari Thrash is going to win the starting spot. I just don't think that turns into really any long-term dynasty value, unfortunately. So it's unfortunate.
You think he's the second wide receiver starting?
No, I think he's no. I think he's the wide receiver 3. Like, I think he's
the wide receiver 3. Okay.
Yeah. I think he plays the slot between Tillman and Judy. But the problem is that
he's the 5th option at that point. Like,
exactly,
or
and they
sixth,
don't play 5, like they don't play 3 wide receiver sets that frequently. Right. So there's not a real world for him to be fantasy viable. I just think that it was really interesting to see him kind of turn into this role, because he was one of those prospects, I feel like, from last year that folks kind of just discredited and were just like, oh, he's done. So there were a lot of folks that were pretty high on Jamari Thrash's tape coming out of Louisville, and it'll be nice for him to just win that spot, because I think he deserves it. He's looked pretty good in preseason, and for whatever it means, it's nice. But from a dynasty perspective, look away.
Yeah. Yeah, man, we cannot do anything fast, you and I, man. We are just taking our sweet ass time here. All right, Trevor Etienne continues to fluster. Have not seen much from Trevor Etienne to really be encouraged by. That job is clearly Chuba's, and honestly, Rico Dowdle hasn't done much either. But he's got seniority there, so it's probably the way that's going to work out. But is there anything on the Etienne side that you can point to and be like, yeah, this is a positive note, or is it somebody you want to buy into because he's just super low value and there's nobody behind Chuba? Like, what are you thinking?
I really think that Etienne is really going to need to improve significantly in his ability to run the ball in the NFL if he wants a long-term career. The only way that he is going to have a serious roster spot is going to be as a kick returner, and he is a very good kick returner. So, in the first 2 preseason games, he's had relative success at both kick and punt returning, I believe, or maybe just kick returning. I'm really disheartened by his general rushing ability. Just being like a really boring, like high level.
Nothing specific, just his general rushing ability is.
It's funny because like we talked a lot about
good.
his ability to like find holes just didn't exist in his Georgia tape. Like the dude can't find a fucking hole. Like he's a burst runner who had terrible vision, in my opinion. And so when you place those two things together, it doesn't translate well to me in the NFL. I thought he looked significantly better at UF before he ended up transferring, and he got significantly worse in a better offense. And it just didn't make any sense to me. Yet for some reason, he was getting propelled by people all over the fucking internet, probably because it's on that dumb website called Twitter or X, and people just post shit to get fucking attention, I feel like, at this point. But Trevor Etienne is one of, I think, the worst 4th round running backs that people have been rostering because he got drafted in the 4th round. And he probably has, the familial name that people were related to with Trevor with Travis. God, fucking their names are too similar. And so, we're stuck there in the space where we think probably higher of the prospects than we probably should. And, I did the same thing with Frank Gore's son. I was like, oh, his tape wasn't that bad. It wasn't that great. So all that to say,
it's probably better than Trevor Etienne's, but
yeah, I don't know if I'd go that far. But regardless, I think this is one of the situations where if you can get off of Etienne for anything right now, I probably would. This isn't a prospect that I think is going to grow into the role that we expect him to just because of his draft capital.
Yeah, that's a good point. And people
Brendan Rice. Yes, great shout.
Brendan Rice, that's another one. Yeah, I liked his tape, honestly. That's sad.
Yeah,
sad
you did.
I did. Chubb's role to lose. It does seem like that is the case. Joe Mixon certainly seems more injured than was initially let on. We're not sure yet, but he's nowhere to be seen. Not good news anywhere from the camp there. Woody Marks, I think, has looked pretty good. But yeah, I mean, Chubb in this last preseason game definitely looked like he had, good burst. I wouldn't say like anything significant, but enough to like, start for this team in the absence of Joe Mixon. So I definitely think it's his job to lose, but I think that we're going to see, like, I just don't think he's at a point where he can carry a load like he used to, which is fine. So we're going to see, I think, him carrying, 60 to 70% early on, while Woody and what's the other one there? Dare kind of split work early on. And, obviously our hope over here, because we like Woody Marks, is that he kind of steps up. But yeah, there'll be a timeshare, I think, behind him. But I could see it changing really quickly. And also Chubb at this point in his career has enough injury concerns to match Joe Mixon. So I like getting into, anything behind him. So, I mean, I don't know. There's probably not that much ability to get into Woody Marks at this point. I'm sure that he's, relatively valued. Maybe, I don't know. Would you roster Dare? Because I've rostered him in the past and he has given me points. Like, it's
I would. I think this is also a great time to get into Damian Pierce. He was a guy that you might have forgotten, probably because he's been injured during the preseason process. But I think if Mixon's injury is as ambiguous as it has been, which we've learned in the NFL, ambiguity is usually a really bad thing. Like if it's well defined, they usually just say it immediately and they're like, he's going to be back in 4 to 6 weeks. This Mixon situation, it honestly sounds like the Najee Harris situation where we're going to find out that he has like no left foot in a couple of weeks. Like it is so bad.
It was amputated.
Yeah, like oh, he had a botched surgery. He lost all of his toes. We don't know how, but he has no more toes. He can't plant anymore. And he can't pivot.
It's the JPP fireworks, but on the feet.
Yeah, exactly. I feel terrible even making these jokes, but like in all seriousness, this does feel like a circumstance where if you don't really believe that Chubb can carry a large role within this offense for the remainder of the year, just given his injury history of the past, his age, the profile as a whole, I totally get it. It makes sense to get into some of the cheaper bets around them. To your point, Billy, like if you want to get into maybe play in a full PPR league, get into Dare, get into Woody Marks. They're going to be the receiving options in that team. I don't really see any other running backs having that type of play. They do have JJ Taylor, who has done that in the past, but he's bad.
I would
he's like
I would bet on
really bad.
I would bet on Dameon Pierce more than I would bet on one of those
JJ
guys.
Taylor. Yeah, I agree.
On JJ Taylor.
I'm just saying that's the competition there. So it's really limited. It really is just Marks and Dare, and I think that's where I would want to be. And we are not saying his last name because we're not very good at saying last names, but it's Ogunbowale. Yeah,
I think I'm pretty good at that.
I don't know. We said it at the same time, so I only heard it in my voice.
Ogunbowale?
Let's keep.
Ogunbowale?
Nope,
no, that's
he
not
couldn't.
it.
He couldn't live with it. Let's keep moving.
Oh my god! All right, Homer take here.
It's a good one.
Deep league running back sleeper Dante Miller. This is the Giants running back. He's 26 years old. What has he done to pique your interest?
Honestly, I think he's just looked great in preseason. I don't know if it's because our running back room just looks completely docile. Like, I don't know if it's the fact that Tyrone Tracy hasn't done all that much. Devin Singletary looks like he runs through mud every time he touches the ball. And then everyone behind Dante Miller, I think it's, oh, fuck, I forgot his last name, but Ward. Like, it's just bad. It's just really bad. I think that Dante honestly has picked up some really decent receiving chops over the offseason. I think he's done a really good job in his first year in the NFL on the practice squad last year to adopt a relatively decent pass protection. There's a space that if you're in a deep enough league, I'm talking about like 30 to 35 bench spots where he has a viable place if Tyrone Tracy goes down to have a serious role in this team. I just don't see Devin Singletary being much more than realistically like someone that's going to be used in the red zone. I think there's a strong chance that the Giants will probably be like Singletary and Jackson Dart line up and they'll just try and run RPOs with the two of them. And you'll be like, oh, we have no idea if it's going to be the fat guy or the fucking weirdo Mormon who are going to try and run at us right now. So instead you got this option in Dante Miller, who I think just gives a little bit more explosiveness to what I believe is a relatively flat offense. So, or specifically running back room. I like Cam Scatterboo, but I don't think that he really adds a lot of speed either to the offense. He's just more of like an elusive running back with a lot of weight. And that's not really what I think is going to really work to be a change of pace back for this team. So if Tyrone Tracy goes down, what's the other option behind him that's similar to that? I think it's going to be Dante Miller. So there's a space there. Deep enough rosters. Be mindful.
I remember seeing Dante Miller a year or maybe two ago. He's been there for a while, I feel like, and he's definitely has some juice. I've seen it. Got some good bursts. Tony Perez, Mormonism catching strays. Well deserved though.
That's
amazing.
Sorry to the Mormon population. It didn't mean anything by it. I just love the fact that Jackson Dart like is the embodiment of Utah. Like he really is. Like
when we lived there, Jake.
When we lived there for a few years, like you literally see this type of like blonde haired, like 6'1", 6'2" guy with a mullet all over the place. Like they are everywhere, and I feel like they're cloned. It was weird, but yeah. Anyway, let's keep it moving. I think that's our preseason week 2 thoughts. I was like, oh, we'll be able to finish this episode in 45 minutes. It took us 50 to get through.
Jesus Christ. Because this is what I was telling you, bro. When we don't have Uriah here to like keep us on track, we just fucking go. It's ridiculous. All right. Let's keep it moving. Next segment
Yeah.
here. Second year swerves. We missed. Time to understand why. We have 5 guys here, so hopefully, and I don't mean burgers and fries. Hopefully we can.
Yep. We're
All right,
professional.
let me get let me get back into it. All right, so we're gonna try to understand a little bit of like we're talking about some second year players here, seeing why we missed on these guys. That's really what we're getting at here. I was kind of thinking about this a lot through the lens of Jalen Wright, so that's gonna be our first specimen here to discuss. But but oh man, I'm tickled now. Sorry. So, yeah, let's talk a little bit about why we think these guys failed, why we may have missed on them, and if we are completely done with them, which I think probably are for the most part here. So, Jalen Wright was definitely a guy who I thought was interesting. The reason I liked him, I thought he, provided really good dynamic ability at running back. I thought he had really good lateral agility, lateral quickness. I thought he made guys miss. One thing that, our good friend Jagger May had pointed out for so many times was that offense lends itself to this kind of success at running back because they spread the ball, or they spread the offense so much, right? And so there's really not that many defenders available in the middle of the field, and so it allows the running back a lot of room initially to showcase their skill set, and which doesn't always translate at the next level because a lot of the time you're going to have to run in between the tackles. You're going to have to make good reads. You are going to have to make space for yourself, right? You're going to have to kind of make your own yards at running back. And that just seems like something Jalen Wright can't do right now, unfortunately. And this is a season and a half or a season and a quarter, I guess, really we should say, of work, and he's just never been able to perform in between the tackles. That's his biggest issue. When they try to run him through the line, he cannot find space, and he also doesn't appear to have a good rush technique to where he can take on contact and either evade it, push forward, get away from it, whatever you want to call it. It's just not really there. And we've seen it in the goal line, we've seen it in the red zone, we've seen it in the middle of the field. Can't do it anywhere. And so I think that's what I missed on. And it's pretty clear that that's something I think coming out of is it Tennessee? Is that where he came out of, or is it? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think, and we've seen this with other guys coming out of Tennessee too. So I think that's just something we need to always be aware of is the scheme that these guys are coming out of and how that's going to translate at the next level. So I think I just missed on that one, but I do think I'm done. I think just seeing how well Ollie Gordon has performed in similar situations shows you, that this guy I don't think can do it. And I don't know where he's going to get really much of a second chance. He's going to be stuck here for a bit. So I think I'm done with Jalen Wright. What about you, Jake? How do you feel? Did I miss anything? Is there anything else to note? What you got?
No, the only thing I'll note, and this isn't really a cop-out, it's just a reality. I didn't put in all that much effort into the running back profiling as I did this offseason. I just don't think I was as confident with it. And so I didn't have really a strong take on any of the running backs from last year outside of Jonathan Brooks. I was pretty off of the majority of them. I was a little bit more on Bucky, but I wasn't willing to overdraft on Bucky, which we've had that conversation multiple times on here. And outside of that, I was a little bit higher on Tyrone Tracy, and I think that was just because of some homerism that popped up when the Giants drafted him. And I was outside of that, the rest of the running back room, I was I'm pretty off of Garendo. I'm pretty off of Trey Benson. I'm pretty off of Blake Corum. It was one of those running back classes that you said a name and just none of the tape looked good enough to me to even really want to have on a roster. And Jalen Wright, there was something about, I think, his explosiveness in the tape itself that kind of stood out to me that I was I'm going to try my damnedest to pick up a couple of shares. And you know what? His fucking ADP in rookie drafts was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. He was unattainable outside of the second round. And it was just I know that the general class ended up being relatively top heavy. If you really look into that second round, you don't really have that many hits. And so it is pretty interesting to think about, like we'll talk about this in the next couple of players, but like specifically at running back, Jalen Wright was one of those guys who stood out to me enough that I wanted to get in, but I never got in. Like I don't have a single share of him. And
I
so
might have one. Yeah.
like I'm technically off of him. Yes. I think that's like where I'm at right now. Like I don't want to get in, but I definitely tried to get in this offseason. Like I'll openly admit to everyone, like I sent a couple of trades, like a singular third before rookie drafts to get into Jalen Wright, thinking that the opportunity was there just because I thought that opportunity was there. But to your point, Billy, Ollie Gordon has come into this offense. Yes, it's in preseason and has looked significantly more efficient and more effective. And to me, just is a more all-around runner. Like he just provides this offense exactly what they're missing outside of Devon Achane. And Jalen Wright is really just like another change of pace back, but he doesn't change pace to Devon Achane. Like he's just slightly more physical. So I don't really even see a space for him to continue to have a role. And that kind of scares me the most is that he needs now like Ollie Gordon to get injured for him to have another shot at getting on the field. And the fact that he lost that spot so fast, I think just goes to show that the front office, the coaching staff, they just lost faith in him really quickly.
Yeah. We had some outlandish takes, I feel like, with Jalen Wright versus Achane probably like 12 months ago. So yuck. Tony here. CJ Baxter, Cedric Baxter, I think, and Jalen Wright's ass done with him. Oh, sorry, done with him. I hate evaluating Tennessee tape. I think that's fair. Tennessee tape
Dylan
sucks
Sampson.
because Dylan Sampson. Yeah, listen, I've never been a fan either. But okay, let's keep it moving here. Trying to, the accountability, right? We like that around here.
Yes.
That's what we're trying to do. Marshawn Lloyd. Here's another one. So I am trying to kind of have a red line with some of these guys at some point, because I do think that at some point you're just like, worthlessly investing capital. But Marshawn Lloyd feels like one who I always had concerns about his vision, number one, but his athleticism always stood out. And obviously you even saw some of that, early preseason and camp, just with his route running, even just showing kind of that dynamic ability, but he just can't stay healthy. He has paper mache hamstrings, and any given week play, this guy could get injured. So, he has a pretty good situation behind Josh Jacobs with not much else there, but yeah, like I don't even know if this is one where the evaluation was really off necessarily. I feel like we kind of got it right, where we actually have no idea, to be honest. Let's be very clear. We have no idea. I still feel like we got it right just based on what it was. Very athletic guy who could be successful, vision concerns. Maybe he can get it right. But the injuries are just like nonstop. And for me, it's like, I feel like, I don't know. How do you feel? Like, do you think he's worthwhile investing at this point? Because obviously you can get him for basically nothing. I'm assuming you can get him for like a third round pick at this point, maybe a fourth, but probably third round pick is where you're getting him at. It's like, do you ever see him returning more than that for you, like a ricochet effect kind of thing? Or like, how do you feel? Because I just feel like it's worthless investing in this player at this point.
Yeah. It's really tough when you have a player like him who honestly hasn't even really played enough NFL snaps for me to really understand what his capability is. The worst part is that when he has played some of his preseason snaps, which he hasn't played a ton, he's looked relatively competent. I think he actually brings something different to this team that they actually want and are looking for. And the fact that we've seen effectiveness and performance from guys like Chris Brooks and guys like Emmanuel Wilson just goes to show that I think that this offense is going to work no matter who's there. And so someone like Marshawn Lloyd, like, yeah, I had issues with his vision as well, but his receiving upside, I think, is there. I think he brings something different that Josh Jacobs just doesn't have. And when and if he is healthy, there is a player there that has fantasy value. I think he's someone that I'm not completely off of personally. I might have overinvested last offseason in like a couple of places. I think I sent like a second for him where he was drafted for a third and things like that. But yeah, I'm looking at his value right now. You can send basically a third. There's a couple of trades in here for a fourth. I would be really happy with that. Okay. You can do Dante Thornton straight up if you're not feeling Dante Thornton and his long-term value. You could probably do Dante Thornton for Marshawn Lloyd plus in fairness. Jalen Wright, straight up for Marshawn Lloyd. I'd rather get into Marshawn Lloyd than Jalen Wright. So, like, there is a space there that I think you can start like moving assets that you don't want on your roster anymore and get into a running back who, yeah, he might not be ready to play again until like week 5 or week 6 with this new hamstring injury, but it's just like, I look at this offense, I see how players who are worse than him have performed in this offense, and they perform really well. It just gives me some hope that we're only in year 2. I know there's continued injury issues, but there is a space. Unfortunately, this organization, Christian Watson, they've kind of ruined my whole feel here for them to be able to monitor and manage injuries well. It's like the fucking 49ers. Like, they go to these teams and I'm like, oh shit, this guy picked up 1 injury. It's now 2 injuries. And it's now like, okay, that second injury is now going to turn into a 3rd injury type thing. So it's something to be mindful of. If I'm investing this like random 3rd, I know that I very well might not ever make it back, but I do think that the upside and Marshawn Lloyd is there.
Yeah, I think he is the one on the list, this list of players that you can provide the best counter argument for swerving. So I would agree. I think I would pull back on it on being completely done. I agree with that. Actually, you've pulled me back in a little bit. I do think, especially if I can send 2 fourths for him, I think you could definitely get out for more than that at some point. He'll have 2 healthy games at some point, right? Like a couple of healthy games where he shows out some of this ability. So I think I'm with you. Okay, you've reined me back in there. Cooler heads have prevailed. All right, let's go down a little bit here.
We can go through these guys fast. Honestly, I've got nothing nice to say.
Okay, cool. So Javon Baker, I mean, I think where I missed the most was the ball skills, and I see it so much in the NFL at this point. He, which is wild for his like stature. He doesn't attack but he's much more of a passive receiver. It's insane. Like, where you'll even see contested balls, like he kind of flails on, like there's no real like attack at it or confidence in it. And so I think that's really where things fell apart for him. He's had drop issues almost his entire career since he's come into the league. I think a lot of his catches in college were not contested, just kind of thinking back to the tape. And he, showed out with a lot of athleticism. Definitely an explosive guy, but I don't think he's great at the catch point, and that has not served him well in the NFL. And I think not am I only completely done with this guy. I don't think he's going to make the Patriots roster.
Yeah, I agree. He's quintessential Alabama bust, and that's exactly what he was. Didn't make it in Alabama, went to UCF, and you're right. He just won based off of pure athleticism. More often than not, his separation was good enough at the college level. He was playing in Conference USA. Like, the level of competition isn't particularly great, and was just open. The dude was just open. One of my favorite things that he did, which I think ended up masking his weaknesses, was he was a huge delayed hands receiver, meaning he would mask his hands until the very last second to catch a ball. You can't do that in the pros because more often than not, you don't have that separation. You can.
Well, if you separate, you can. The best do it because they separate.
Definitely. You're 100% correct. But like, you can't do it at this level with his athleticism because he doesn't actually get open because his route running isn't as superior as what it looked like against Conference USA competition. So yeah, I'm off of this guy. I don't want anything of him. Every share that I had of him, I had like 3 or 4. They got either dropped or sent for a 4th at some point last year. So see ya.
Yep. Malachi Corley, I felt like I needed to shout this out because I remember grading him really highly, and this was actually my former grading process, and I actually changed what I had made the mistake on with this one in the new grading process, the updated grading process. And I was just, the way that it was being graded was weighting athleticism far too much. And so he was a super athletic guy and somebody who, really popped off the screen, but I didn't really master the finer, fundamentals of the receiver position, the route running, all that good stuff. So, I don't really need to harp on it too much. Just wanted to shout that one out. Already kind of updated the process for that, but excuse me, worth mentioning for those out there that are working through it themselves. Jake, anything on that? I imagine.
No, yeah. The only thing I'll add is that I was really off of Malachi Corley.
I remember.
the weird thing was,
You
and
questioned me. You were like,
I
"Why are you so
did,
high on this guy?" Yeah.
especially because he graded so high, and to your point,
Yeah.
you fixed that, so I don't want to call that out again. But the one
Yeah.
thing that I will say is that I was starting to guess myself, not because of you, but because of Steve Smith and his like strong volition that there was something there in Malachi Corley that was going to translate to the NFL. And every time I watched him, I just continued to see a worse version of Kadarius Toney, honestly. Like a Kadarius Toney who had like a little bit more build to him that could bounce off of tacklers. And I was just like, this looks like fucking shit. Like, I don't know. I didn't get it. But at the same time, it's like when those types of situations occur, and I'm not saying that I trusted Steve Smith's perspective, but it was the first time that I had really heard Steve Smith in a really strong light. He was saying a lot of the same things I saw, or he was saying a lot of the same things that I had seen in like Malik Neighbors that I really liked. And one of the reasons why I had him number one in that draft class. And I was like, oh, maybe we align here. And then that was starting to question my process. But thankfully, he was at one of those levels that we were talking about. He was literally undraftable for me. Like his ADP was at an extreme level when we were drafting. And I was just like, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to have a single share of him. And I didn't. So it worked out for me. But yeah, I'm off. I was off last year, but I'm off this year too.
Alrighty. Tony here. Steve Smith has been writing cup evaluation for years. He's done pretty bad since. That is fair. He is not hit since. Okay, Jermaine Burton is the last one we have on this list. I mean, there's so many concerns with Burton coming into the league, off field, and wherever on
field.
It was both on field and off field. Yes, you're right. But never really the football performance itself. He was always pretty decent in terms of being able to play the game, but bringing back between the ears hasn't always really been there for him. So I don't have any shares, never have. I think the team's too crowded for a guy like him, Yoshi Voss, and I'm talking about the third guy on the team because there's no way he's touching the other two in Higgins or Chase. But
Charlie Jones. Oh, sorry.
Hey, he got a touchdown, I think, in week 2.
He did.
And even if Higgins went down, Yoshi Voss easily, and then maybe you see Burton, maybe. And so, yeah, I mean, I got nothing, no love for Burton, and he's not on any of my teams. What about you, Jake? I know this is somebody you were a little more into.
Yeah. He's on the list because of me. I feel like this is the one that when you asked me this question, I was like, yeah,
the one that got away.
I know exactly who it is. And like, I know it's funny. Shout out Matt Waldman. He talks a lot about this too. Like he's attracted to basically the bad boys, the guys who have something wrong in their prospect profile that's off the field, something that like doesn't impact the play. And then you don't know how to properly evaluate that and like its impact to the actual process. And that's the thing is like, I sit here and I watch his tape and even his routes that he ran in Cincy when he was not in the doghouse, like he looks good. Like he's a competent football player. He has a path he had a path last year. And, it's one of those places where I think I just need to, for my own self, to keep myself accountable and to move forward. It's okay to value these guys a little bit higher than consensus. But when there are windows to get off of them, just know that the risk is just too goddamn high to continue to push it. So, being able to draft him in like the mid to late third and being able to trade him for a second or sometimes even 2 seconds at one point last offseason, it's like, I got to just do that. Like, stop pushing it and thinking that, like, what is he maxing out as? To your point, wide receiver 3 on this offense? Like, yeah, Burrow could touch 5,000 yards, but it's like, am I really expecting there to be 3 1,000-yard receivers on this team? Like, that's insane. Like, what is my expectation and how does it translate to points? Like, am I putting all of my bet on T. Higgins picking up an injury? That's not the game I need to be playing. So that's kind of like what I've done through this question. And I really appreciate you even bringing this up because this one, as you can tell, I'm very animated about because I feel like I failed myself because there were multiple times last year where I should have gotten out. There were multiple times last year where I was trying to buy in at like extreme value and people didn't let me. And I'm like, oh, thank you. But in all seriousness, like sometimes the tape can be perfect. But if you know that there's something underlying to that profile that you have no control over, try and bake that in. Like maybe take it off of like, let's say it's a half a round for yourself, like remove that half round value. So if you're willing to buy in at that late second,
try to quantify it. like try to
Exactly.
quantify it. Yeah.
Exactly. And then make it into a mid-third instead or something like that. Like that's kind of going to be the way that I'm going to move through it moving forward and just be like, that's going to be the line for me to get into. And if I don't get into it, it's like, okay, too
Hmm.
bad I missed out. But like the off chance that this guy ends up getting suspended or kicked off the team at this point is really high, unfortunately. And it's unfortunate. I still have like 4 or 5 shares. Like he's definitely a very high
Wow.
share. I still have probably way too much my brain just stopped working. But exposure, that's the word I was looking for. I still have way too much exposure to him. So, I probably can't get out on off of him. And so I'll probably just hold until he's nothing and keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, to your point though, there's a fine balance there, right? Because obviously every profile is different, so you have to apply this level of unquantifiable risk to each of them appropriately. But with a guy like Burton, it's one that you don't need to take those risks on, right? It's like that specific profile. Like there are profiles where maybe you do say, hey, yeah, all it takes is T. Higgins' injury and this guy's in, but it ain't this guy. Like, or it ain't that profile. You need to get out and get that return on investment. And to Jake's point, quantify it and then tell yourself, here's my thresholds both for acquisition and for selling. So it gives you kind of these goals to kind of hit. Okay, cool. Let's keep it moving. That was actually that's it for the second year swerves. Again, just trying to kind of look into some of the second year players and look back on some of our evaluations on the ones that we know kind of are having some issues and maybe why they're facing those issues and if we missed anything on them. I think it's a really valuable exercise. Something I love to do is talk about the misses as much as we love to champion our hits. The misses are much more illuminating, I think. Okay. Oh, one thing I did want to say, just kind of a note at the end here. So, we mentioned Waldman, and Waldman is absolutely one of the best out there. So no shade whatsoever in this, what I'm saying here, but I just want to make a point. Is that we all have misses, right? Like Isaiah Nayor is a great one who, again, could totally come back and have a role in another team somewhere, and who knows, like his story is not written whatsoever, but he just got cut from the 49ers. He was a Waldman darling, and there's been many Waldman darlings who haven't worked out. There's been many, and many who have, and that's not the point. My point is that everybody misses, even the best, and that it's really like even we've had him on here multiple times and we've talked, and each time we ask him like, do you try to improve your process? Are there things you change year to year? And he, of course, like anybody who is being honest and, doing this to get better at it, says yes, of course. And I think he even took something from our last conversation and implemented it in his process as well. So we're always trying to, learn and grow. And I think that's kind of the dismount here for me is it's really about the attention to detail and continued growth in the craft of analysis, right? Like that's what we're trying to do is like, we're trying to just continue to grow and be better. So like the misses are going to happen. And we're hoping that like Waldman probably has a lot more hits than misses. We're hoping that's where we land as well. But we have to touch on those misses and we have to look at the process critically and see if we can get better. And if we're not doing that, then you're probably not doing this right or for the right reasons. And so I just wanted to throw it out there. That is what I think we're doing. And what some of the best do. So good stuff, Jake. I appreciate doing this with you. I think the film evaluation stuff is super fun, but super nuanced and a lot goes into it. So appreciate having a partner in crime on this. Let's move it forward. Anything you want to say before we move forward?
No. You're 100% right. This is exactly what we have to do. And I love that this year specifically, both you and I have done a great job also writing up all of our prospect profiles. So we've now shared it out to everyone in the Discord. I think even more so that keeps us more accountable. Like it shows a time-stamped release of the thoughts themselves. People can go back to them, shout us out if we hit, shout us out if we missed, and just be like, hey, that was a complete bad read on that player. And it's like, that needs to happen. That needs to, like, if we want any credibility in this space, like there needs to be some type of paper trail to understand what we have and haven't done. So yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah. I love the paper trails. I love going and looking back on it myself too. And I think you like doing that too, being able to see like, fuck, this is where I missed. This is what I said. And also it's good to go back and be like, oh man, like I was dialed in on this one. Like this is great, and you realize that you are doing this. You're doing this well, and you're doing this right, and there's going to be hits and misses that come along with all that. So good stuff. All right, let's talk about some trades here, and then we will get out of here. This was just a normal show for us. We didn't go too long, and we definitely didn't go short. All right, let's hit it. DU1, and these are all three of these: DU1, DU2, and DU3. So we have 4 trades here, and they're all going to be 12-team Superflex PPR start 10 25-man leagues. Nothing really spicy in there, just pretty normal. Okay, so we have a 26 first, 26 late first. Okay, so let me start over here. 26 late first, 2 26 seconds, a 27 second for Rashee Rice, Derrick Henry, and Dallas Goedert. That is a trade right there. I'm going to put it on the screen because that was a lot. That was a mouthful. So I can say it a couple times. Okay, show it here. 26 late first, 2 26 seconds, 27 second for Rashee Rice, Derrick Henry, and Dallas Goedert. I'm going to go with the players on this one. Considering it's a late first, I'll take Rice over that easily. And then 2 seconds, 3 seconds for Derrick Henry and Dallas Goedert. Like, yeah, I think Rice covers some of the value on the seconds there, and Derrick Henry is a great piece for contending. Yeah, so I think this all is kind of about Rashee Rice being a little bit undervalued, I think, and everybody worrying about the suspension too much. Any thoughts on this, Jake?
Yeah, this is one of those weird trades where the team that's trading away Rice very clearly is also not contending because you wouldn't be trading away Henry at this price. And it's like, if I'm not contending, and my fear about Rice is that his value is going to decline at some point because of suspension, but I know that his next hearing isn't until around the week 5 time period. Why would I be getting out for him now? Like, why am I going off of the basis that he's going to get suspended at another point with the idea that if I am rebuilding and this guy has a great first 4 weeks of the season, he's not scoring any fucking points on my team and he's still the same asset and he's not playing. So it's like, I don't know. I'm really confused by this one because this feels like the perfect asset for a rebuilder. I don't know why you're trading it on the low. I don't really get this play. And this is one of those where like you would tell me, like, why are you bundling all these players together for this type of package? Like instead, if I was trying to trade away Henry, it would be like Henry and maybe like a second rounder, some type of second round piece going for that late first. Yeah. That's where my head would be going at instead. Because that's kind of how I see this, like high end Goddard value and Henry for the late first, and then 3 seconds for Rashee Rice because you're just slapping Rashee Rice's value around in the face. Like I just don't get it. That's just
fair. Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely the player side, and again, I agree. I say this all the time. You want to break these high end or these high value pieces down. The more that you can get away from trading them in packages, I think the more you can extract value from them. So that would be my goal. But definitely, to your point, if you're rebuilding, and that's obviously what the person here is aiming for with the picks, why wouldn't you keep Rice? Like that seems like a perfect piece who's going to both not score points for a certain amount of time and also rebound with value. So yeah. Okay, next one here we have Kirk Cousins. This is D2. Kirk Cousins for 26th third and Jameis Winston. It's interesting. I did hear, I think it was Waldman and them talking about how somebody was, like, I guess camp reports are that Kirk Cousins looks a lot better this year, a year removed from the Achilles, which I wouldn't be surprised. That definitely sounds probable. And it made me kind of rethink this because initially I'm like, yeah, I'd probably take the free third or whatever it is technically, but it's probably Kirk Cousins. And this is one of those ricochet effect kind of things where he's probably going to get signed to one of these teams either because of an injury or because of, like the Saints or something, right? Like one of those teams or some shit. And then boom, right there, he has second round value instantly, so yeah, I get the idea of why you'd want to do this as a Kirk Cousins owner and get off of him, but I think patience is probably a virtue on this one after thinking it through. You're on mute, I think.
I am. Thank you. And my voice actually cut out, so it saved me from the embarrassment of being a 30-plus-year-old and my voice cutting out like I'm 12.
Puberty.
Yeah, no, you're so spot on. Someone who someone who was part of the trade commented on the trade and was just like, "Thanks for the free third." And I thought it was really funny because I was like, at most, it's a free Jameis. Like Jameis is
That's a better way to think about it, I guess.
like, what is Jameis? Jameis is a fourth? Like, he's got a solidified backup position for the next 2 years, basically, because of his contract. Like, the Giants aren't giving him up for shit. They signed him to a 2-year, $8 million contract. They're paying him $4 million a year.
I think it's easy to think without quickly, if you just don't really consider all the factors, that so is Kirk Cousins, that he's just a backup, and it's like, thanks for the free third, but we just laid it out. Like, yeah, no, that's probably not the case.
It's Kirk Cousins.
Yeah.
If I could buy Kirk Cousins for a third and Jameis, I'm going to do that in every single league right now. And maybe I'm losing out on the third and a fourth here, but the upside to Kirk Cousins becoming a starter again, not even just this year, but also next year, is really high. So
yeah, I mean, I'm going to be totally honest. Initially, I was like, yeah, no, that does seem like a free third. And then I thought about it, and obviously, like, we didn't have a conversation about this. I brought my own thoughts here, but I was just like, I thought about it, and I'm like, oh shit, like and also, no, that was the other thing I did hear. I was like, oh shit, they're right. Like, a year removed, like, Aaron Rodgers looked okay with it, and like so did Kirk Cousins for the first couple of weeks. It's like, yeah, like, if you think about it for a second, if he's healthy, he's probably going to get a job at some point. And I mean, there is the possibility for Jameis to be starting for your Giants. Like, let's not, let's be honest. There is a potential for that, and then you can get out of Jameis too. But it's much, much more of a risky situation, or not risky is not the word, but just it's less likely is the word.
I don't disagree with you. I think the issue, though, is that Jameis as an asset has kind of this film on him that people know that there's another player there that they most realistically want to be starting ahead of him.
This right? So crab.
Yeah. Without me bad mouthing any other people from Utah, like, I think it's just one of those situations where, yeah, you get into Jameis for maybe he's the starter for 2 or 3 weeks while Jackson Dart still gets more prepared for the league. But it's like, if we're at a point where Jameis is starting, I think that the turnaround time now to Dart, just because of how things have looked in camp, which I'm not saying have looked amazing, or preseason, like, they're good. They're promising. They're not anything amazing. Waldman talked about it yesterday too. Like, it's a very lowbrow, very similar to what he was doing in Ole Miss package that they're intentionally working with him in. That's very different than what they're doing with Russ. Like, it's all very, very intentional to just get him up to game speed. I'm not saying anything about that. It's just, at the end of the day, like, once they finally feel that way, Jameis literally is just going to be caught as the backup for the next 2 seasons. So it's like, I don't think anyone's going to trade into him if he gets called the starter for a couple of weeks and be like, oh, I'm going to trade a second for Jameis. Like, Jameis is capped, I think, at max a late third. So that's just not worth it to me here. And that's kind of feels like a loss, not reading the situation well.
Fucking Mormons. All right.
Jesus Christ. Oh, that was in bad taste on my part. Let's keep moving.
Oh my God. All right. We love everybody around here. Don't worry about it. Okay. 27 second plus a 26 third for Swift plus a 26 fourth. This is in DU2. Yeah. It's kind of what I talked about last week. I feel like, or what we talked about last week at the ricochet effect. I do feel like you can flip Swift for, like, if nothing else, I feel like you got a free fourth here, but I feel like you're going to probably be able to move him for 2 seconds. Like, that's probably what you can do. And then there's obviously potential for more than that if he shows out in this role early in the season. But yeah, I'll take Swift here.
Yeah. Shout out to Lapisaurus. He took our advice, sent an offer to Uriah and got it done with Uriah. So, you know,
Took our advice and
I,
used it against us. I love that. That's great.
yeah, the dude's a genius. Yeah, I take the Swift side on this. Like, even though I don't like Swift for a second, it's like I know exactly what he's trying to do. He's taking literally the words that we said, and I think this is a prime example of Swift blows up in the first 4 weeks. You get off for more than what you acquired, and you get into another cheaper running back somewhere down the line, and you continue to score points like that. So, yeah, good shit.
Good stuff. Love it. Taking advice into action. Good shit, Lap. Appreciate that. Okay. And that's also, by the way, sorry, that is what the Dynasty Underdog leagues are for. Like, I play them as seriously as I play all my other leagues, but it's also a place where you can kind of experiment a little bit, right? Like, you can do stuff. It's like an open environment. You have a lot of flexibility with your rosters. Like, it's not super rigid. So it gives you a lot of flexibility to kind of do the things you want to do and build the teams you want to build. So, yeah, love that about the listener leagues. Okay. DU3 listener league, Quinshawn Judkins for a plus 2/3 for Ken Walker. That's a good trade. Yeah, I think like I'd probably just feel good getting into Ken Walker and knowing that I could probably get out of that for good value without worrying about all the other off the field stuff. I can understand getting into Quinshawn Judkins here, but I'll probably just stick with Ken Walker. What about you?
Yeah, I think I like the asset of Judkins more than I like Walker's.
I like the idea of the asset more for sure.
The rigidity of Walker, like, just generally scares me. We talked a little bit about this during our mock draft before. It's like if I get into Walker in redraft, like I want Charbonnet. There aren't a lot of other assets where I feel like that per se, and so that just to me strikes fear. That being said, I think that the plus on this needs to be higher. Like we're now talking about in 2 DU leagues, back-to-back weeks, Ken Walker just being completely undervalued, in my opinion. I forgot what the trade was last week, but it was basically equivalent to like no firsts and just like stockpiling a bunch of seconds together and getting into, I think it was a second, Arroyo, a third, and something else for Walker and Goddard or something. It was like, if that's where we're at with Ken Walker, like I'm fine with it. Like I'm going to get into him. I agree with you. I think the value here is Ken Walker. It's just, I see the perspective of the person trying to trade for QJ or Quinshawn Judkins in the 2/3. I just want that plus to be probably a second. Like instead of 2/3, send me a second. I'm kind of comfortable with that. I think I'm willing to take on the risk depending on what my roster looks like, but not for this.
Yeah, in my mind, you could probably get out of Judkins for the same thing you can get out of Ken Walker even. So if you don't like either asset, like you're talking, well, I mean, you may like Quinshawn Judkins, the asset, but if you are concerned about both of these assets, I think you can take the plus side and move Judkins pretty quickly and get, what Ken Walker would be worth, but easier to your point, maybe because he, like, although he has all that risk, there's also so much potential with him where Ken Walker, we kind of know what we have. And I think a lot of people are willing to like move on from that for, something new.
Can I correct myself really quickly? I said rigidity. I meant fragility.
Fragility. Okay.
He's fragile.
Those are very different things. Yeah. Those are very different things. I don't know if I caught the context of you saying that.
That's fine. Thanks for listening to me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I mean, listen, I'm trying to manage things here. I'm running the show, motherfucker. Shut up. All right. We got a couple of comments here. Slashy, what's up, boys? What's up? Tony Charps popping off is going to tank Walker value. Absolutely, it already is. And yeah, Jake and I were having a conversation before about our redraft team, and he was kind of alluding to some of the similar things. Not even just the value, but also it's very very possible that Charps eats into that even more. So there's a lot there to be concerned about, I think, with Ken Walker. So I understand getting off of him for sure. Okay. I think that's all we got, Jake. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we move?
Yeah, we turned 2 topics into a 90-minute show, so good on us.
We're very good at that. At that. Listen, we got a lot to say. We have a lot to say. And if you want to hear more from us, you can hop into the Discord and listen to us yap there too. So catch the link in the show description. Yeah, thanks for everybody sticking with us on this one. It was really fun talking through the week 2 stuff and the second year players. Yeah, it was really, really good stuff. Other than that, shout out Uriah, even though he's not here. We'll get him back next week. Jake will be missing you, but you will be back, I guess, the week after that, which will be good. We'll plan something fun for that, and we will have real football. We will have real
That week?
life football that week. That's insane. I can't believe it. The season's about to start. That's crazy. All right, that's all we got. Catch us in the Discord. Thank you all for tuning in. Thanks for everybody who joined on the YouTube channel. Catch us at Dynasty Underdog on the socials, and we'll catch you next week. Peace out.